Welcome back, everybody. It is the Awesemo.com Nhl Dfs strategy show. I'm Jay Kari, joined by Josh the Goat Harris, creator of the Josh Stack, as some of you may have used last night to some success. Josh, how's it going, man? How was the night besides the last play?
Yeah, for some reason I normally don't get tilted, but I was like on tilt. Like I think you just stopped responding to my messages and went to sleep because of it.
I was asleep early. I forced myself to go to bed because I don't know. These last few times that I've had something good going, I don't know. It feels like I do better when I just stop paying attention. Yeah. So I didn't want to stay up and then get tilted and then be tired and then not be able to sleep because I was tilted. So it's just kind of a snowball effect there I was trying to avoid. And it ended up working out. So didn't work out optimally for you, but it sounds like a pretty good night overall. What did you do, 3-4x?
Yeah, I think I won about 1,500-1,600. It was like in the low to mid 3,000s, but that Gallagher goal got switched to not Gallagher, so it dropped me in half.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I got pretty lucky. I had a couple lineups that did well. Tied with my boy B. Kreider. Is it BK Reader or B. Kreider? I can't remember.
I don't know. I met him in Nashville, and I honestly don't remember.
Anyways, he's a really good player. Plays NHL, plays NFL. He's kind of just come on the last couple of years. And I didn't feel too bad about having the same lineup as him, other than I had to split the top prize with him.
Crazy that Pulak was in there with his one shot on goal in the winning lineup.
Yeah, I think he had like a shot and a block or something like that. Like he was worthless, but 5-man PP stack with Toffoli and Yoel Armia, who both had 40. Like that's gonna happen maybe once a season. And just kind of lucky to put it all together in that lineup. So
you got your Armia one time already.
Yeah, I think I did. I think I got my one time. So no complaining for me tonight at the very least. We'll see. Maybe tomorrow I'll be back tilting in the premium Slack. We've got 8 games to discuss for tonight. Just under an hour remaining in this show. We've got NBA coming on. The reason we started early today, we're going to be doing this throughout the season, depending on the NBA slate size and lock time, of course. It is a big NBA slate. And so they need to get their shows started. They're the best in the business. They get a lot of people watching, subscribing, liking, more than us. But let's try to show them up today. Hit us with a like and subscribe if you guys could. That really helps us out. As you all know, share the show with your friends. Tell them to come by, make some lineups, and get in Slack. More importantly, use the projections ownership, projections top stack tool. That's it seems like everyone that comes to the site quickly falls in love with the top stacks tool or the top fighter tool for MMA or the boom bust tool for NBA. Those tools do really well, and it kind of gives a good look at the slate overall, who's overowned, who's underowned, and things like that. So really, really good tool, especially if you don't have all day to be researching lines and inputting lines into your optimizer of choice. So like, subscribe, join, awesemo.com/join. We've got packages starting as low as $3.95 per week. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to start with Buffalo and Washington. If you can even call them the Capitals right now with all the guys they've got missing. 3 implied total for the Sabres, 2.6 for the Caps. Linus Ullmark and Vita Vanacek going for the Caps. Weird total. And then I remembered Caps are without Ovi, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Ilya Samsonov, which is their starting goalie, and Dmitry Orlov, who is a top 4 defenseman for them. So they're in trouble. That's why you're seeing the low implied total, but that's obviously going to open up some value. They're going with Backstrom, Jacob Vrana, and Tom Wilson as their top line. Buffalo, no real changes there. But yeah, Washington hurt with the COVID protocols. They're making them play the game because they broke protocol. And I don't actually know if these guys have COVID. But anyways, they can't play for the next 4 games.
Samsonov tested positive.
Who did?
Samsonov.
Yikes. Okay, so they might be out for more than 4 games. But they're going to have to play through it because they weren't wearing masks, I suppose. anyways, what do we got in this game? Low total between these two, but I think there's some things to like on both sides. What say you?
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows the Sabres top line with Eichel, Reinhart, Hall correlate well on power play one. It'll be interesting to see which Capitals line goes against them, because if you think about it, like normally you're going to have the Ovechkin line going against the Eichel line, which would favor the Sabres heavily here. But if they're going to send out Lars Eller with Oshie out there against them, that probably is going to favor Washington there, which makes me want to play, the Backstrom, Vrana, Wilson line, because they're all correlated on the top power play now with, Ovechkin and Kuzi out. But like the one concern I have is Vrana's time on ice. Like he's been getting 15 minutes. I feel like I have a little bit of fear that if the Sabres, jump out to a lead here, that they're going to drop Vrana down and move Oshie up. So as much as I want to like the Sabres, if they're going to put Lars Eller out there, their top defensive center against Eichel, I kind of want to play the Caps here. I think they're going to go well owned and overlooked because of all their firepower out. But that top line fully correlated on the power play for way cheaper than the Eichel line. I think that's where I want to be.
Yeah, that's where I want to attack, especially for the Capitals side. I think for the Sabres, it's pretty easy. Top line for them looks perfectly fine, but you take Kuznetsov and Ovi out of the lineup, and yeah, they're going to be a little bit better defensively, obviously not as strong offensively. And so that's why their total's so low. But I've definitely stacked up my fair share of teams with a 2.5 implied total before. So I'm not going to stop it here with these Caps. Verana as a one-off looks really good. I mean, if you look at his projection right now, we've got him projected for like 2.5x on DK and similar on FanDuel. So he's one of your better cash wingers for tonight. Get to avoid the Hall Eichel line, which is huge for them. I mean, even if they don't get to avoid them, if they match up against them, like that's a ton of ice time that they're going to end up playing anyways. Top power play for all those guys. So yeah, Caps one looks like the clear play on that side. And then I think that's all I've got for forwards. Buffalo, I'm interested in. I haven't run my normal crunch. I was running a little bit behind before this show. Then we started a little bit early, but I think I'm going to have my fair share of Buffalo one as well. I'm not too scared of the Lars Eller line. I think Eichel, Hall, and Reinhart could end up being a line where we look back and just say like, all right, you can play this line against pretty much anyone, like a Vegas 2 type of numbers once we get into a bigger sample.
Oh yeah. I mean, they got Hall and Eichel. I mean, they're two studs. So you just, I haven't seen their ownership, but I imagine they're going to be chalky tonight. So just on an ownership play, going up against a better defensive line than they normally would. I think it's a fade for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, we just got ownership. Not seeing, so it's an 8-game slate. Things are going to be spread around a little bit, but it doesn't look like any line in particular is coming up like way over owned. So I'm seeing some skaters that I think are going to have some ownership. Tavares, Nylander, guys near the top. Fiala, wow, I didn't really see that one coming as much, but I guess they're at home. So we'll get to that game in just a bit, but it doesn't look like Buffalo one's going to be overly chalky on our first run. We'll get a couple more runs of ownership as I update projections after the show. Pay attention to your lines in Fantasy Cruncher. I know they're doing their best to try to get all the lines corrected. I think they're uploading them manually until they can figure out a permanent solution. But, I'll try to update all the lines in the projections, and then you guys can just go off of those. So feel free to double check there. Anything on the blue line before we move on?
I mean, if you're going to use Washington 1, Carlson, power play 1, obviously makes sense. Same with Rasmus Dahlin if you're using Buffalo power play 1. And I guess if you really need a punt defenseman from this game, I don't mind Colin Miller, power play 2, min price. He's paired with Dahlin, so he might see a bump in ice time. Yeah,
I just ran like a cookie cutter crunch with just like 3 stacks all the way through. And Carlson's my second highest owned defenseman. Not like he's right up there with Yossi as a guy. I mean, I love Yossi, so I always play him, but Carlson is definitely in his range tonight, if not as good of a play as him. Let's go to your Rangers and the Penguins. So you've got your Rangers jersey on. 3 implied total for the Rangers, 3.5 for Pittsburgh. Igor Shesterkin and Tristan Jarry. I can't remember how Doc Emmerich pronounces it. Is it Yari or Jari?
I think it's Yari. But I'm not the one to give you advice on pronunciations.
Yeah, Doc's retired now, so we won't get to hear him say that anymore. But anyways, big total here for the Penguins. Not showing up a ton in the ownership projections. I think for the most part, they're priced correctly. You've got Crosby over 7K. You've got Gensel near 7K. Erod, I believe, is going to start on that top line. He stuck there the entire game last time, and they had good numbers. But
I think Kapanen practiced up there, but you're gonna have to like check pregame because we thought Kapanen was going to be line 1 last game, and they ended up being on line 4.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that would switch things up. I would just suggest that if you guys are making one lineup or 150, if you're thinking of playing any Pittsburgh, just wait to crunch if you can, or at least be ready to swap. You could crunch with Kapanen in, then swap down to Rodriguez if you need to, if you don't want to redo all of your lineups. But I'll probably just redo everything. As far as matchups here, Crosby line, probably going to see Zibanejad, Kreider, and is it going to be Lafreniere? Or
Yep.
Okay, so he's getting promoted to the top line.
He's on the top line. That's what I wanted. Now I just want Strome and Hedl to swap on 2 and 3, but I'll yell about that later on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting to you in this game? Are you going to that top line in the matchup against Crosby? That's a pretty tough matchup. They're not only really good offensively, but they keep the puck away from the opposing line on the ice. So you firing them up here?
No, not the top line. I want to avoid Crosby here. I think I think the Malkin line is going to go against the Hedl bottom 6 for the Rangers. So I have interest in Pitt 2 there. I also have interest in the Rangers second line, even though I've been like railing on how bad Ryan Strome has been to start the season. I just think going against Mark Jankowski, Brandon Tanev, Jaron Baccan, that's favorable. Panarin and Strome power play 1. Buchnevich moves there onto line 2. So I think that's a bit of a boost there. So yeah, for me on the Rangers side, I want the Rangers second line. And then, for the Pittsburgh side, it's interesting because they're home and they get the last change, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if I were them, every time the Jack Johnson, Tony DeAngelo pairing is on the ice, I want to put Crosby or Malkin out there because that is the worst defensive pair in the history of hockey. Like, they are so bad. So, like, I would imagine Crosby and Malkin, one of those lines is going to be out there every time Jack Johnson, Tony DeAngelo is out there. So I understand if Pitt's going to get heavy ownership because of that, but I'm someone who doesn't even play Pittsburgh, and I consider the Malkin line just because of how bad that pairing is.
Yeah, both lines for Pittsburgh. I mean, it's nice that there's 2 lines here to choose from, and close enough in price where it's kind of one or the other in terms of an entire lineup. You could power play stack this. It's possible, but it gets really pricey really fast. So I think I might have some Pittsburgh power play stacks if I can find a 2-man Yoel Armia maybe type. It's going to get me 4 points at 1% ownership or something like that. So if you can find that guy, yeah, stack up Pittsburgh. But yeah, it's really tough to find 2-mans that fit that could actually be productive. So really good spot for Pittsburgh. I think I want to avoid the Zibanejad, Kreider, Lafreniere line. Might be kind of an optimizer play, just because like there's good names, like there's recognizable names. Zibanejad, really good player for DFS, and Lafreniere, the rookie. Maybe people want to fire him up here. I don't think this is the spot for them. So they're coming in at about, let's see, where I just had them on here, 8% ownership, which doesn't seem like a ton, but I still think I would be well below that, like maybe half or less, like maybe 5 lineups out of 150 is where I'm thinking I probably get to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have Zibanejad in like power play stacks, but other than that, I mean, and Kreider too, because he's cheap in the power play, but I don't think I'd full stack that line.
Yeah,
I just think that's a line for another night.
I agree. Yeah, let him disappoint tonight with a 3 total, and then fire him up the next game at hopefully lower ownership. Yeah, I like Pittsburgh 1 better than Pittsburgh 2. It's not really a hot take. We're showing Pittsburgh 1 with slightly more ownership, slightly better chance of being the top stack. So right in line with the top stack tool on this one. Again, Pittsburgh power play, I'll stack up either the top two. I think I'm probably, I don't want to say I'm out entirely on the third line. With the total like this, I like to mix in some third lines, especially if they're on home ice. They get to choose the matchups that they want. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so that's different because like Toffoli's not actually a third line player. Like this guy could be top line. Like he's coming off crushing. Yeah. He was crushing in Vancouver with Pettersson and JT Miller for a long time there. So for whatever reason, they've got him on the third line. I don't think they're going to change anything up there, but yeah, I mean, Letang 5,900 here, power play stack. Sure. If you want to play him with a pit 1 and or pit 2 stack, that's fine. I don't think I'm going to end up with a lot of Letang one-offs for almost 6K on DK. Anybody on the Rangers side for defenseman? Fox, Tony D. No top power play for him anymore though.
No, Adam Fox, I think you can one off 5,100 power play 1. He's easily the Rangers' best defenseman. You can watch the game for 38 seconds and know that he's their only good defenseman. Trouba has fallen off a cliff. I mean, if you want to punt someone on the Rangers, Keandre Miller, min price on a pairing with Trouba, so you should see a decent ice time for 2,500. I don't know what his ceiling is or his floor really, but for 2,500, what do you really need?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be out on the ice for like more than 17, 18 minutes in your 2,500, you're probably going to be at least in my player pool. So I don't mind the call there. Let's go to Edmonton and Toronto. We've got a 3.1 implied total for the Oilers, 3.4 for the Leafs. We just saw this matchup a couple nights ago, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a super fun game to watch, but Edmonton won, got there somewhat. I think McDavid had like just over 20 points. Nugent Hopkins had a decent game. Draisaitl had a decent game. Yamamoto had a goal. So the top 6 for Edmonton was okay. Toronto definitely disappointed. Matthews got a goal, but the rest of the team was pretty brutal. No Matthews for this game is the big news. That's going to shake some things up. They were already shaking things up with their lines in this game a couple nights ago. Now we're going to go with Tavares, Nylander, and Zach Hyman to start with, and Kerfoot with Mitch Marner and Mikheyev on the second line, which is really cheap. Is there any line that sticks out to you on the Toronto side?
If there was a line from Toronto, it'd definitely be Tavares, Nylander, Hyman. Their totals, I would imagine their total dropped after the Matthews news. I think the 3.4 was what it opened at, but I actually, honestly, I haven't seen a new total. But regardless, I think, the Tavares line's not going to see the McDavid line. I would imagine they're going to put Kerfoot out there against the McDavid line, which favors the McDavid line. Yeah. But from a Toronto side, Tavares, Nylander. Hyman isn't on the top power plays, 4,400. You know what he is. Like, you put him on there, he does nothing. You leave him off, he scores an empty net, shorthanded goal. So, for me, I'm kind of off Toronto tonight. I'm more on the Edmonton side. I would imagine ownership is as well. Definitely the McDavid line. The thing is, on the Edmonton side, Neal's going to be in tonight. We don't know where he's going to be, but I would imagine he's going to be on the top power play. So I think we got to wait for news there. I don't know his price actually, but I would imagine it's fairly reasonable.
Sorry, I'm reading chat. Who was the guy you mentioned?
James Neal.
James Neal. Okay, yeah, he's okay. We've got him with a bunch of question marks because he's a game time decision, but or I think technically a game time decision. But he practiced on the power play, so I'm pretty sure he's playing. I thought he was on the top unit. Yeah, because
he's on the top unit. I just don't know where he's going to slot in 5-on-5.
Yeah, we've got him at line 4 right now. Yeah. Could he go with Turris and Puljujarvi possibly?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably where he's going to start because I think they moved Ennis. I'm not 100%. That's one of the. Luckily, this is an early game, so we'll see where he slots in. But I think that's someone you can slot in this game, like for a power play 1 exposure.
Yeah, for sure. And I would definitely include him in power play stacks. Like, he's not a complete plug or anything. He had a down year in Calgary, but did have some moments last year. I believe he had a 4-goal game at some point last season, which was like a year and a half ago. But nonetheless.
Wasn't it 5 goals or was it 4? I don't remember.
I just remember just closing the laptop as soon as the game started. He just like back-to-back goals, and Edmonton was popular, and he was somehow popular. He wasn't even on McDavid's line or something like that. I just remember being pretty tilted. But yeah, right here, and I'm getting to a decent amount of Toronto 1. Let me sort my exposures here. Yeah, right now they're my second highest on stack. I can't imagine playing
that because they're going against Draisaitl, which isn't they don't have the best defensive metrics. Not that there's a line on the Oilers that I actively want to avoid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not like a ton of spots on this slate that I absolutely love. Like, there's a couple of games that I almost just want to cross out. And then there's like these late games like Vegas, Colorado, what you're doing there, but like, all right, can you fit decent lines with those guys, those lines? That's going to be the difficulty. Like, non-Minnesota lines, it looks like they're getting some ownership. So
I see someone in chat saying that Neil practiced with Shore and Archibald on the 4th line. So maybe he starts there, but I think eventually he moves up into at least the top 9.
But I think you're mostly just playing him in power play stacks. You can go like McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, and Neil or something like that.
Definitely prefer Neil to like Wayne Simmons, who's even min price on the power play. I still don't want to play him. Yeah, like the only way he scores is if like the puck like hits like the crossbar, hits him in the face, and it like trickles in. Like that's how he's scoring.
Yeah. All right. Shout out to Clayton. He says, "Here's to Tools." $5 super chat. Thanks, Clayton. Been our most loyal customer in YouTube chat. That's for sure. So appreciate that. First time playing NHL, who would be must starts? Billy says, well, there's no must starts, but I don't know. I would buy a subscription, get some projections, and then you can kind of see who the best plays are, to be honest. That's how I would start. Basically, any new sport that I start with, I just use the tools on the site, and I have a decent idea of who's a good and bad play, which sounds like I'm just selling our stuff, but I kind of am. But like, I think you should figure out some sort of projection or ranking system. That seems like the way to go. There was another one that I wanted to mention here. People talking about Minnesota. We'll get to that game in just a bit. Do we have anything else in this Edmonton-Toronto game you want to mention?
I mean, Barry's still underpriced, power play 1. Morgan Riley, 5,600 power play 1 for the Leafs. I think I would only use him if I'm using Leafs. He's kind of been underwhelming to start the season. And then Mikko Koskinen, 7,500, not facing Matthews. I think volume might be an issue for the Leafs tonight, but I think he's a GPP play for me in net.
All right. Man, Tyson Barrie hasn't done anything, feels like, this whole season. He's cheap, and like, people keep playing him, and I understand why, because you just want exposure to McDavid and Draisaitl and RNH, but he's only in Edmonton stacks for me. Like, I'm going to probably just make a hard rule on Tyson Barrie. Like, he's cheap enough, but man, he just hasn't done a thing. So let's move it on to I believe this is the 4th game of the night. So we're right on schedule. 2.9 implied total for the Red Wings, 3.1 for the Blackhawks. Tomas Greiss and Kevin Lankinen getting another start for the Hawks. And he's coming in with some ownership. He's a $6,500 goalie. There was potentially another one, I think, in Buffalo, Johansson, but he's not starting. It's going to be Allmark there. But we've got our $6,500 goalie. 2 bad teams going at it. Would have one elite line if Detroit wanted to play their best players together. But we know Jeff Blashill does not like to do that, likes to keep us guessing. Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi, all on separate lines, at least to start with. So what are you doing with this Detroit team? Do you think they're going to get back together at some point during the game? And then talk about the Chicago side as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping they'd get back together. Sorry, my dogs saw a leaf blow by or something. But I was hoping this is a great spot for the Red Wings. But, Blasshill's like, oh, we got to spread out our depth because we suck. And then 2 games later, he'd be like, oh, yeah, this makes us suck worse. But they're kind of unstackable tonight, like over – Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi over 3 even strength lines. If you want to power play stack them and hope that they get back together at some point tonight, I think you can do that. I was toying around with that a little bit earlier. Yeah. I left off Bertuzzi and put in Ryan, like Bobby Ryan, with Larkin and Mantha, just because Mantha and Ryan play together at even strength. So that's really about it for me on the Detroit side. On the Chicago side, I think if you're using like a really expensive line, like Colorado 1 or something like that. I'm kind of digging this Hawks second line, Kubelik, Strome, and Kurashev. Kubelik's been shooting like crazy. He's been scoring. He was coming off 30 goals last season, something like that. $5,000 Dylan Strome doesn't really do much for me. I'm not high on the Strome brothers, but Kurashev is min price, and he scored last game.
Yeah. I don't mind the call there on Chicago too. They're really cheap. No one over 5K. You mentioned Strome. Everyone's going to be on Chicago 1. Like when I just run projections, you get a fair amount of Chicago 1. Suter is he slots in pretty nicely for 4,300. DeBrincat and Kane, we know what they're capable of. And because Detroit is mixing up their lines, I don't really know which line you probably want to target or don't want to target against. Probably the one with Mantha, if I remember correctly. I think he's pretty solid by himself.
Yeah.
Forward, yeah. And so, I don't really know. There's probably not really going to be a match per se. I remember at some point, either last year or 2 seasons ago, they would go with the Kampf line up against opposing top competition for 5 minutes a game. I don't know what that was about. Hopefully they never do that again, but maybe they're trying to lose games. So maybe they will do that. Yeah. Hard for me to really recommend anything on the Detroit side outside of Larkin and Zadina. Nemesnikov, he's always cheap. Maybe he can get you a goal for 2,900 and it's just cheap exposure to Larkin. So I guess I'm okay with the Detroit 1 stack. But yeah, I'd prefer to just power play stack them and just hope that Larkin, Mantha, and Bertuzzi either start the game together, which is certainly a possibility. We've seen them skate with weird lines in the morning and then they're back to normal at pregame skate. We've seen that a handful of times last season. So it's a possibility. But at the very least, you're just playing their 3 best players at a combination that probably not a ton of people are going to have.
Yeah. I mean, and there's not really much on this blue line that I want to play either. I mean, Danny DeKeyser is back running the power play for Detroit. So 4,100 for Danny DeKeyser, no thanks. If he was 3,200, sure, but 4,100, no. And then there's question marks on the Chicago blue line. Boquist or Boquist, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's a game time decision, I believe. I don't think he practiced this morning. I'm not sure if it's injury related or protocol related. But I would imagine if he's out, maybe I think it's Duncan Keith who probably slot in. I mean, he's 5,700. That's really pricey for Duncan Keith. So I'm probably just going to avoid the blue lines in this game. But the goalies do interest me just from a price standpoint. Lankinen's min price 6,500 against an awful Detroit team. I don't know if Lankinen's any good, but if he sees 30 shots and saves 2 of them, or sees 30 shots and only gives up 2 goals, I mean, he'll get his value.
If he saves 2 of them, he might get you value too.
Yeah.
So, 65. I mean, it's just back in the day, I don't know, maybe people wouldn't do this, but I feel like everybody would just pay up for goalie in a good win spot. But now on DK, how do you not just slam him in a cash game or something like that? I think most of the good cash players would probably at least give him a look, regardless of the goal total against him, and it's below 3. So yeah, he's getting some ownership in GPPs. He goes well with Chicago 1. I would have no problem stacking him up and, going Chicago 1 or Chicago 2 with Lankinen. Not a huge fan of Keith if he's the power play quarterback, just because he doesn't do a whole lot. You're just looking for assists or something like that. doesn't really get you a lot of peripherals. So yeah, this one, Detroit, like old Detroit one, maybe the new-ish Detroit one, you could take a stab at.
Bad.
It's just not great. Like, what everyone's going to go to in this game, and that Chicago won. So it's hard to really disagree with it. All right. Before we get started, tomorrow is the big fight. It is McGregor and Poirier. Josh is going to be watching. I am very certain of that. He's going to be grinding some MMA DFS, running his single bullet to try to get a big cash.
Connor's sparks him.
What'd you say?
Connor's going to spark him early. If he doesn't, Poirier's going to win late.
All right. Okay. So bet your McGregor under 1 round tickets, McGregor first round knockout, or Poirier the distance. So head on over to OddsShopper. I'm sure we've got some stuff for that. Oddshopper.awesemo.com if you want to shop some odds if you're in a legal state. Michigan just went live today, so I think we've got that updated as well if you're in Michigan by chance. Anyways, MMA, we've got a $2.57 MMA weekly pass for UFC 257. That is the McGregor and Poirier main event. So if you want to get that for just under $3, you get access to the Top Fighter tool, UFC pro plays from our MMA teams. You can check out the strategy shows for free if you're not quite ready to get the $2.57 weekly pass. Feel free to upgrade to platinum. You get NHL, you get NBA. We've got some really good guys doing it for every single sport. NFL's this weekend, so it might be a really good time to get a platinum weekly pass and try us out. But promo code Connor with 1 N, I found out on the show the other day. Conor McGregor, 1 N. That is the promo, and you can activate that. Again, $2.57 for UFC 257. Tomorrow is your last day to redeem that. So once the fight goes live, you will not be able to use that promo code anymore. It expires tomorrow. And while you're at it, go on Twitter, give us a follow, and Awesemo Nhl Dfs is the new Twitter handle. Got a ton of followers over there. If you follow the old one, just go into the bio. We've got a link to it. Just give us a follow. That's going to get you news and notes from our Slack channel. Anything really important. It's a good account that you're going to want to follow if you're playing some NHL DFS, especially if you don't have a ton of time. If you're playing other sports, if you want to see the late scratches, not take some zeros. Awesemo Nhl Dfs. Sharks and the Minnesota Wild, 2.5 implied total for San Jose, 3.1 for the Wild. Devin Dubnyk, revenge narrative, going up against the new goalie for the Wild, Cam Talbot. Minnesota surprisingly chalky. Fiala's price is a little bit too low. He's been shooting a ton, attempting a ton of shots, has been a bit snake bitten, doesn't have a goal on the season. Kirill Kaprizov, 5,200. Zach Parise down to 4,400. Both guys top power play. So you got two lines in play here. It looks like the Fiala line getting a little bit more attention. And then you've got the Joel Eriksson, Jordan Greenway, and Marcus Foligno line probably going to see opposing top competition. The question is, which is the top competition for the Sharks line? How do you see the matchups going here?
I mean, if I was coaching the Wild, I'd send out Joel Eriksson against the Hurdle line.
Yeah.
So if that was me, I'd look to the Couture line. I mean, I don't love this line, but Couture's too cheap. He's 5,100. LeBanc is one of the softest players in the NHL, and I don't like him as a player, but like 3,700 power play too. Ryan Donato, min price. Like if you love the Sharks tonight, like I think this is a line that's definitely going to go overlooked. Even the top line, like Joel Eriksson, like they've been good defensively, and they're definitely under league average for expected goals against. So I mean, is it the best GPP play stacking the Hurdle line if they're going against each other? In 1 to 3 lineups, no, but in 150 lineups, yeah, I'd have at least a little bit of the Hurdle Kane Timo Meier line because they have a chance to go off any night. Kane played terrible last game. He took 4 penalties. Sometimes he just kind of is an airhead like that. But if he's locked in, I think they can do that. Burns and Carlson are cheap for both on power play, one for the amount of time they're on the ice. Carlson's what, 4,800, Burns is 6,200. That's cheap for them, just for what they do. And then on the Minnesota side, I think, for me, I want the Bonino Fiala combo here. I don't really want to play Marcus Johansson. He's kind of just a passenger in the car at this point. I wish, the top line had a little bit better center than Victor Rask. And, Zach Parise, even though he's 4,400, he's kind of just like Zach Parise. Like, I don't know how else to explain Zach Parise.
Kind of washed.
Yeah, he's old and washed. So I don't mind Kaprizov one-off, 5,200. But for me, I go Bonino Fiala with either Dumba or Spurgeon. I know Bonino's off the top power play, but for 3,100 power play 2 with Fiala, I think you can get away with it there.
Yeah. That was a good breakdown. So for this game, I think if you look at the top stack tool, you might be more interested in the Hurdle, Meyer, Kane line. We're calling them SJ1 tonight. They used to be San Jose 2. Usually Couture gets top line assignment on like Fantasy Cruncher and stuff like that. But I guess I'm not really confident in who the Eriksson Ek line is going to go up against. New coach for the Wild, like based on last year, like it's not Boudreau. Maybe you'd have a better idea if it was him. They're going to go up against whatever they deem the top competition. Is that Couture? He's kind of been doing it longer than Hurdle. It just depends on the coach. So I really wish we knew, because then I could just X out one of these San Jose lines. I don't love the spot for San Jose in general, because I just think one of their lines is really going to have a tough time. But if for some reason it's not the Hurdle line, then I think Hurdle is a really good play here at really low ownership. So I'm going to take some stabs on probably both of these San Jose lines and just split it evenly between those two. I know that's kind of a cop out, but
we don't have information on like, it'd be easier for like, Eriksson Ek's going against Hurdle.
Yeah.
Then I'd be like Couture. But like if Eriksson Ek is going against Couture, like I'd definitely want some of that Hurdle line if I knew that for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm probably just going to do a little bit of a hedge here and play some of both of those lines. I think I'll be a little bit over on the Hurdle line, maybe right around the field on where Couture is at. On the Minnesota side, I don't think these lines are that different. Like I prefer Fiala over Kaprizov and Parise. But he's also getting like double the ownership of that top line. So maybe going to go a little bit more to the Parise, Rask, Kaprizov line and hope that the field is just off on this one. But they're both solid plays. I just worry that they might make for some doopy lineups. Like you might be getting some 50K lineups that look really good, 50K salary on DK that like fit perfectly. And so
use Marcus Johansson and hope he pots one. I don't think he's going to be high owned at all.
We've got him at 8%. Yeah. Really? I mean, maybe people don't stack as much this line, but I mean, we don't have him at, like if he was at 3% or something, then I think that'd be fine. But Fiala, probably another cashy play, right? I don't play a whole ton of cash, but I mean, people talking about him. And
might be a little price. I'm not sure, where the Wings are looking at cash, but 5,600 for Fiala. I mean, he's had other than the last game where he only had one shot on goal, his other games were 7, 6, and 5, something like that. He hasn't scored, but there'll be some regression to the mean on the shooting percentage there.
Yeah. All right. Let's move it on to Nashville and Dallas. 2.8 implied total for the Preds, 2.7 for the Stars. UC Saros, not sure if he's going for sure, but he's who we have projected right now. Anton Khudobin for the Stars. We do have confirmation on him. We are 9 days into the season, and this is the first Stars game because almost all their guys had COVID. So now enough guys are cleared. They can roster a team tonight. No Tyler Seguin. He's going to be out, I think, for the entire season. He had surgery on his hip, I want to say. So he was hurt basically the entire time that they came back during the restart. They're going to go with Hintz, Ben, and Gurionov as the top line, Pavelski, Kiviranta, and Radulov as the second line. And then you've got good old Nashville one, pretty cheap price, but low implied total on both sides. Anything sticking out to you here?
I mean, I don't know what to expect for the Stars. I mean, they haven't played since the Stanley Cup. Like 80% of their team had COVID. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to like overreact or underreact to that news. But I mean, so we'll just assume that they're going to play normal, right? I want to play the Stars just because this top line of Dallas, right? Jamie Benn, Rupe Hintz, Gurionov, like they're going against like the Nashville second line, Duchesne, Luke Kunin, and Mikael Granlund. Like that's a bad defensive line, like bad. And so, yeah, I mean, that heavily favors Dallas there. Even the second line, like I think, I'm not sure about the ownership, but I think that second line might be more popular than the first, because there's more name value there. Pavelski, Radulov, and Kiviranta is not a household name, but he did score 4 goals against, the Avs in Game 7 to get them to the Stanley Cup. So, And then on the Pred side, that top line is still, fully correlated power play one with your boy Yossi.
Yeah. Man, I like Nashville one just because they're low owned. We're showing under 3% ownership for them as a line. That seems a little bit ridiculous, especially when you can play Yossi and you don't really have to worry about price being too restrictive on those 4 guys. I know Nashville power play hasn't been good for a long, long time, but you really only need like one. Maybe this line can be good enough at 5-on-5. Maybe the Stars come out flat. They haven't played game action in 5 months. And they got a bunch of guys. Who knows how many of these guys actually did have COVID? I think 15 total did have it as recently as like 2.5 weeks ago. So people respond differently to it. I don't know the science behind that. But I think I'm mostly going with Nashville one in this game. They're coming up decently in the top stack. Some good leverage that you get on the field. It's a big slate. It's a line that I don't know if they're good anymore, but potentially they could be very good and have a bounce back season. They have a sample of being very good together. They also have a sample of not being very good together. So a little bit unsure about what to do with Nashville one, but the ownership is telling me that I'm going to play them. I'm going to play, 7-8% of them, I think, and just move on and probably pay the rake.
Dobby the free elf wants to sit with me. So,
all right, there you go. Anything else left in this game?
I mean, I think Klingberg's in tonight. He's 4,800 on the power play one. If he's in, I like that. Esa Lindell, power play 2 on the top pair, 4,000's okay. I mean, it's a little pricey for me. I wish he was in like the mid to high 3,000s, but Yossi, you go back 6 to 800. I think. And then goalies in this game, I'm kind of interested in Anton Khudobin. It's a little pricey, but he is at home, so you expect, the little higher price here. I think if Dallas comes out and plays like they're supposed to, they win this game.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have no clue what to expect from them.
Yeah, me either. But that's the thing, right? So 1 to 3 lineups is kind of hard because you don't know what to expect. So I think I'm fading them, but like in MME, I think you have to have some Dallas here just because this is a favorable matchup for them and they're cheap. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that different of a spot than Minnesota, especially if you knew all these guys were good and ready to go. They're cheaper than them. Lower implied total, but I think maybe that's just Vegas not knowing what to think. So, I don't mind the call. I'm going to have bits and pieces of this game. I'm not going overboard on any line here, but I think I'll probably be over on the lowest total game on the slate, which always feels great. And then Yossi, 6,800. He's going to be one of my highest owned guys. I don't know if he'll be my highest. Him, Carlson. I'll play some Klingberg with any Dallas stacks that I have. It's not a great night for defensemen, actually.
No.
We didn't really talk about Burns that much, but
6,200 Burns. I mean, Burns, like, I'd have to look into it, but like in the games they win, he's definitely way more involved than the games that they lose. Like he just kind of like checks out.
Yeah, and he had one huge game, and I was looking at like the game report for that, and just expecting to see like I think he had like 5 shots on goal, and I was expecting to see like the 12 shot attempt game where he's just throwing everything at the net, and I think he only had 6 shot attempts that game. So trying to quick look up to see just how often he's shooting on the season.
I don't mind his line mate Mario Ferraro. If we're going to talk about the Sharks for a quick second, he's 2,700 power play too. He's on with Burns, so he sees 22 minutes a game. If you need a punt defenseman there, I don't mind him at all.
Nice. Yeah, we kind of skipped over that, so that was my bad. 28 shot attempts for Burns in 4 games. Let's see where Yossi's at. Man, Yossi, not great. Actually, only 3 games, 19 shot attempts. So pretty much just a similar range. So yeah, but not like any nut spots for defensemen tonight that I'm seeing. So when that happens, I kind of just play the best guys. Adam Fox, yeah, he's cheaper than all these guys. So maybe we'll find some in this next game, but Vegas just has too many to choose from, it seems like.
Yeah.
Golden Knights, Arizona Coyotes, 3.1 implied total for the Knights, Alex has, and 2.5 for the Yotes. Leonard and Kemper are your expected goalies. I think we've seen this game 7 times in 8 nights on the season. Feels like these two teams are just going to play against each other the entire year, and Vegas is going to win every single one of them. The only difference here is that Arizona is going to be on home ice. They'll get last change. They probably won't use that to their advantage.
They will not.
I have no clue who they would even use. Brassard, maybe? Brassard.
I think it's Brassard, Dvorak, Pitlick.
Yeah, have fun. I mean, have them go up against Stone and Pacioretty all game and see how that works out. Low ownership on Vegas here. Is it just because they're on the road or lowish
just
total?
So many, maybe it's McDavid slate or all these. I mean, what Vegas has one of the highest totals on the slate besides Pittsburgh and Edmonton, I think. So if they're low owned, I'm going for it. Especially the Pacioretty, Stevenson, Stone line. If they're going against Brassard, Pitlick, Dvorak, or maybe just people like using Darcy Kemper. I don't know, but for me, this is Vegas for me. People don't like using Stevenson because he's not on the power play. He's 4,300, doesn't do too much, but I like using him in my stack just because you're going to get them the whole line at a lower ownership. And it kind of helps fitting in these defensemen here because Pietrangelo, 6,400 power play one is a good, if you're using either of the top 2 lines, you can go there. Shea Theodore, cheaper. He's not on power play one, but he is scoring and he is shooting. So I think he's definitely a valuable one-off there. The Marchessault, Carlson, Riley Smith line, I'm not as high on them. They do have a favorable matchup again, but like Smith's price is creeping up and he doesn't see much power play time.
Yeah. Did we lose Josh there, Jordan? Oh no, you're back.
I'm back. Here I am.
Yeah.
And just one last thing on Vegas before I swap over to the Arizona side. Alex Tuck, 4,100 power play one. I think you can one off. He's kind of like the Foley of the Knights. So I think you can definitely go there. Then on the Arizona side, I don't really have much interest, but like if the Schmaltz, Garland, Kajula line is going against Cody Glass, I think, you can have a little bit of, Arizona one there. And I also don't mind, the Keller, Uncle Phil, Lawson Krause line, although Lawson Krause doesn't really do too much for me. And they moved, I think Victor Soderstrom is in the lineup and he's min price on power play one. So I think min price power play quarterback, I think you can, go there. It's not a good matchup at all, but I think you can play him there. And then Jacob Chikrin as a one-off is okay if you're, going deep into lineups.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a decent amount to like. I mean, trying to pick out Arizona lines is not something I would wish upon anybody. If you look at my exposures, every slate Arizona's played, and they're on home ice, so I'm a little bit more interested here tonight compared to other nights. But like it's pretty flat across the board where I might have the top two lines at like 3 to 5%, but no higher than that. This is probably going to be another one of those. I think if there's a line that I get to, or at least a duo that I get to, which is a little bit pricey for what they've been, it's Schmaltz and Garland, just because they've been generating a decent amount of offense, and maybe they don't see like the Stone line. Carlson, Marceau, and Smith's a little bit easier to match up. Go down to the third line, not as difficult. So that would be.
He doesn't shoot the puck. That's his problem.
Schmaltz.
The puck. Yeah.
Yeah. Always frustrating to play a guy like that, especially for 4,600. Unless you're just around, you're centering two elite guys, when you're like a Stevenson. Yeah. But that's a little bit different story. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have more than what we're showing in ownership on this Stevenson, Pacioretty, Stone line. I'm going to be higher than on the Vegas 2 line as well. They look too cheap to me. I would imagine their ownership comes up once I refresh projections here a little bit.
I just worry about, because Vegas concentrates their time on the power play with that top unit. So, Smith and Marshall don't see as much power play time as they have in the previous years, but 5-on-5, they're still a very good line.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think Arizona's going to be a super strong team 5-on-5. And then you've got a couple of good defenseman options. Pietrangelo, the guy that more people are seemingly going to go to at 6,400. But you mentioned Theodore. This is kind of like the Burns play from a few nights ago that worked out if you went overweight on him. Low owned, and he's not even on the top power play, but a guy that he's probably going to attempt 5 to 7 shots and can legitimately score goals. I think he scored last game or the game prior. So he'll be looking to shoot. He'll be looking to create offense. A guy that could get you the combo meal at no ownership. So a guy that I'm going to be boosting if I'm not getting to organically. Anything else here? Oh, Kemper, 7K, picking up almost 10% ownership.
I mean, he's been 6,900 to 7,200 the last 2 or 3 games they played the Knights, and that hasn't worked out for his favor. But I see, he's low. He's a low price. He sees shot volume, so those are the popular plays in goalie now, because if they hit that shot bonus, they're going to hit value. And Robin Leonard, 8,400. In years past, Leonard would have been a cash lock, but now he needs a shutout to hit value. So these cheap goalies are more popular now.
Yeah. I like to correlate goalies as much as anyone, maybe not named Testosterone, but Leonard at 8,400 plus a Vegas team that doesn't project as like the nut value, a little bit difficult, especially when he's probably projected to see like 25 shots or less. If he lets up a goal, you're in trouble there as far as a tournament winning lineup. Last game on the slate, please like and subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton, helps us continue to provide free content. A bunch of you guys have already done that, so thank you. But we still have a ton of viewers that seemingly watch us every single day, whether it's NBA, NHL, MMA, PGA, whatever it is, and don't subscribe. Just help yourself out, subscribe. 50K followers. We're about 1,000 away, and we're hoping to get there in the next couple weeks. So help us out if you appreciate what we do. Avs and Ducks, 3.2 implied total for the Avs, 2.3 for the Ducks. Grubauer and probably Gibson for the Ducks. No announced starter. That's nothing we haven't seen before. Since we just started the show, I want to check on this. I saw something about Sonny Milano.
He's out, and they called up Max Jones. So I don't know who's going to slot in. I mean, we won't know, but I would imagine
Comtois?
Either him or Troy Terry.
Oh, yeah. Terry played some with them. I think they had really good numbers, actually. I mean, what do you like in this game? Colorado won. Should we do the spiel about them? And then.
Yeah, the spiel. I mean, yesterday they started off really strong, and then they just kind of faded to black. Maybe.
Yeah, I wanted to thank them for that.
Yeah.
That was really helpful.
Yeah, I faded them. But, maybe it's just because they figured they'd coast against the Kings and they had a game the next night against the Ducks. I don't know. But they're an elite line. They're probably the best line in the NHL as long as Pastrnak is out for Boston. So they're an elite play. They're going to get ownership. You know what to do. If you want to play them, play them. I think if you're MMEing, you got to take a stand. You don't really want to be on the field with them. You got to be really under the field or very over the field. this is mostly a Colorado game. I think, the second line has favorable matchups, even the third line. I don't think you need to go to the third line. I mean, you could. Confer Donskoy, power play 2. It's all right. Kadri's kind of been not great to start the season, but he's on the top power play. You go there. They have that I guess they moved Byram down with Connor Timmins. He was with Makar yesterday, but Makar power play 1, 6,500. Obviously, if you're using Colorado 1, Devin Tays is getting a little bit pricey. I like his peripherals 5-on-5. He is on power play 2 as well. And then on the Duck side, as Cliffy and I talked about it on the show on Wednesday, these forwards just don't see. These forwards for the Ducks just don't see ice time. They're just basically running like 3 or 4 third lines. So skaters, if I really want to eventually at some point use a Henrique Silfverberg power play stack with Shattenkirk because it's so cheap, but they just see 14, 15 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And this is a bad matchup anyway. But Shattenkirk still under 4K power play 1, 25 minutes a night. Sure, that's a guy you can plug in if that's your last guy and you have 4,000 salary remaining. But that's about it. I like Gibson if he's starting 6,900. I'd rather play Gibson than Kemper, just because if Gibson was on a good team, he would be a top 5 Vezina guy every year.
Yeah, no, I mean, Colorado 1, look, they're going to be pretty low owned tonight. Relatively, I mean, they're always going to get some ownership. They're never going to be below 6, 7, 8%, somewhere in there. So don't think you're getting 2% on Colorado 1. You might get that one slate a season that's 14 games or something like that.
I mean, and normally you're they're back to back on the road, but all these games now are back to back on the road. So
yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's just going to slam them, and they play a ton of minutes, and they're really awesome. They have great numbers so far at 5-on-5. Their defensive numbers aren't that great, and they haven't really been historically. So I'm looking for something on the Duck side. If it is Troy Terry, we do have a 70-ish minute sample of them from last season, which was, again, a long time ago, but they were very good at 5-on-5 with Terry, Getzlaf, Raquel, and Troy Terry. They'd probably see some time, at the very least, against McKinnon. Maybe if they see extended run, that's going to mean some extended minutes. So I like Raquel and Getzlaf and whoever else they're with. Don't play Milano. He is on the IR. If it's Max Jones, fine.
I just wish they're getting 18, 19 minutes a night instead of this 14, 15.
Yeah.
And then it'd be okay, yeah, I feel a little bit more comfortable MMAing him here, but these minutes are just a big concern.
Yep. All right. I think we got to get out of here now. I'll mention one more thing. I do like the ownership on Colorado too. They haven't played very well. They've swapped between Nichushkin and Donskoy on this second line, and Burakovsky's been out. So they haven't really gotten going yet, but really low ownership. I would include Val Nichushkin for 2,500 and sub 2% ownership. Anything else you want to mention before we head out?
No, I think if you want to, if you guys missed some stuff, our Twitter handle's right here. Add us, get in the Slack chat, add us there. We'll answer your questions if we missed them.
Look at you, third show and you're already selling. Yeah, join that Slack chat. We don't have a promo code going on, but we've got packages as low as $3.95 a week. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hit us with a like and hit the notification bell on the way out. And stick around for the NBA show that's coming on right after this. Good luck tonight, everybody.